Wow, beautiful reflections I'm seeing here of myself. Thank you for showing up. How many of you have been feeling like you're beginning to emerge into bright blue sky and the world is starting to make sense again? Yes. Jupiter, as many of you know, entered Sagittarius on November 8th, and the rocket has begun to launch after a year of diving deep into the recesses of our own shadow, doing a vision quest, a hero's journey, to access a deeper understanding that makes sense of the bigger picture that we're all personally involved in. For those of you who know astrology, the third quarter of the natural wheel, Libra through Sagittarius and then also Capricorn, has been really emphasized these last few months. The third quarter of the natural wheel is associated with our dancing with a mirror self. Once we've traveled through the bottom of the chart, the first 6 signs, we've perfected a certain aspect of our own personal being. Once we've self-realized, then we're drawn through the power of attraction, Venus in the 7th house of Libra, to begin to share that greater self, that new self we've realized through our journey of self-perfection, with a mirror self. And through that experience, then, we're drawn out beyond ourselves to dance with the larger world around us. So Libra has a very, ruled by Venus, has a very important function in drawing us beyond ourselves to experience that depth within ourselves with another person with whom we can dance. This has been particularly emphasized, this part of the process, opening the gateway to the top half of the natural wheel, since early September, when Venus entered Libra. She's still now in Libra. She's gone direct, but she's in Libra now. So the Libra-Scorpio phase of our evolutionary journey has been emphasized on a very personal level. So I consider personal relationships as front lines work. You can go up on the mountain and get enlightened, have angels visit you, but try living with one other person for a while and see how it goes. So when you come down from the mountain and you get involved with someone on a personal, intimate level, your spirituality is then given an opportunity to ground into the human experience. With Venus, we're dealing with our own human experience of the other as a reflection of the depth with which we value ourselves and our own beauty. In the lesser evolved state with Venus, we seek that confirmation of our own value and beauty through the reflection of the love of another, through whom we seek to become whole. At the higher stages of Venus in Libra, we realize that we are already whole, and the dance we do with another is an overflow from the generosity of our being to share that love with another as a reward for the work we've done in realizing ourselves. So we can, at the earlier stage, be very disappointed that we haven't found our quote-unquote soulmate. The soulmate then becomes a hero's journey, a quest that through whom, him or her, we hope that we are then fully self-realized and made whole. Have any of you experienced that? I did. But through the cauldron of relationship, then we realize that the only person who can, in fact, make us whole is ourselves. And then until we've done the inner work, until we've done our homework, and come home to ourselves, the true value and beauty of our own being, we're not able to really fulfill the ideal of an alchemical relationship that then leads to Scorpio. Scorpio is the natural consequence of Libra. So Venus has been hovering on the cusp of Scorpio Libra. She's about to re-enter Scorpio on November 1st.
November
To
1st?
Yeah, I mean December 1st. And then remain in Scorpio for the rest of the year. Those of us who have come home to ourselves and formed a conscious and healthy relationship to our own beauty, value will then feel confident in engaging on a very intimate and powerful engaging level with another to access deeper, more beyond the self energies that are connected to the Kundalini, that then open the door for the experience of the greater part of ourselves who can only be catalyzed through another. So Venus has a difficult time in Scorpio because she is naturally connected to the experience of our own reflection, the attractive power of our being. In Scorpio, though, we dive deep into a passionate level of our own being that transcends the self. We lose ourselves in the passion for another. And when Venus is in Scorpio, she can become quite overwhelmed by the passion she experiences and realize that she's losing herself in those, so that a greater aspect of her being can emerge through the rising of the Kundalini and being touched by eternity. Scorpio for me is the gateway to immortality. We hear that Scorpio's associated words are death and regeneration and resurrection. It's through the experience of our deaths that we then are touched by the immortal aspect of ourselves that cannot die. So Scorpio is the cauldron through which we're driven into the depths of our own mortality, so that we can contact the immortal part of ourselves, our souls, that cannot die. And when the Kundalini awakens, there's a transcendent experience that puts you in touch with the soul, the portal to the soul. And you realize the immortal aspect of your own nature, being the true source of the love that you've been seeking in relationship to another. So with Venus re-entering Scorpio, she's traveling back through the final third leg of the retrograde cycle, coming out of the shadow then in late December. So we'll have an opportunity to re-engage with the opportunities presented, particularly in October, for a deep, powerful, transformative, intimate relationship to someone who acts as a catalyst to awaken the Kundalini power within us, to rise to a new level of understanding of the immortal aspect of our nature that lies buried in the heart of ourselves. So how many of you have really had some really powerful transformative experiences in your relationships this last couple months? Yeah. And had to do the homework that it was challenging you to do in order to find that place that where the love that cannot be moved is anchored. Whenever I'm in the scorpionic underworld, I recognize that I have an opportunity to deepen my commitment to the immortal side of myself, the immortal aspect of myself, where the true source of love lies, so that I become a source of that love even in the darkness. So as Venus continues to complete her initiatic cycle through December, we will then have another opportunity to practice being connected to our souls in the depth of passionate encounter, so that we then become a transforming influence on those we love. With Jupiter having entered Sagittarius throughout the coming year, Jupiter now has opened the gateway for greater understanding of that which connects us all. Jupiter's been in Scorpio for most of this year, adding to the depth and intensity of the hero's journey that we've all been experiencing with the loss of an understanding of the path that makes sense to us. Because when Jupiter's involved, we're dealing with the path that we follow, the path that leads us to a greater, more expanded awareness of that which connects us all. And that's your understanding, your path, what makes sense out of your life. Jupiter in Scorpio in his last phase before he entered his own sign. There were many who experienced a crisis of faith, a crisis in the path that made sense for them, that gave their life meaning. And through the experiences of this year, we've all been having the opportunity to explore new ways, new pathways through which our expanded awareness then brings new meaning to our lives. And it's just now beginning to emerge throughout the coming year as Jupiter has entered Sagittarius. Jupiter is the co-ruler also of Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces currently since 2012. So the co-rulers of Pisces, Jupiter and Sagittarius, and Neptune and Pisces are squaring each other throughout this coming year. It's an interesting contest between the faith that we carry through direct experience of the higher power, Neptune, and the conceptual frameworks we built, the path that we've followed, as a means through which to expand our awareness, Jupiter and Sagittarius. So those two squaring each other off are squaring each other throughout the coming year will give us opportunities to hold to what we believe is true lightly and know that through direct contact with the higher power, we have direct access to the greater love that moves through the world and through our lives and gives our lives meaning that then informs the path that we embrace in a flexible and conscious way. So do we have any people with Sagittarius emphasis in their charts here? Have you been experiencing an uplift?
Well, it's 21 Sag, my rising.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to go through my 12 house first.
Yeah.
Catch me next autumn.
Okay. Well, as soon as Jupiter enters the sign of the aspect, you start feeling it. It may take until the perfection of the aspect for you to become fully conscious of it. But as soon as
the challenge will be watching my appetite through the holiday season.
Yeah, Jupiter tends to overdo things. I connect Sagittarius in general and Jupiter at his higher octave with the animal medicine of Pegasus, the flying horse. And Pegasus to me is the higher octave of Chiron. Chiron was the wounded healer, half horse, half man. And then Jupiter in Sagittarius in his higher aspect, as Pegasus, reveals the great gift, as I mentioned in my last talk, the gift of our wounds, that carry a certain teaching within them that then opens the door for our being able to reach certain people that we have on a soul level contracted to act as a healer toward. We have a brother here who I spoke pretty extensively about that, where we as older souls may make a soul contract, to enter the underworld experience of a certain aspect of the human nature, of the human experience. So through direct experience, then we have the opportunity to understand and experience what others are going through in a way that we can reach them. In other words, if you've been a drug addict, or you know that you can reach those who are having the same experience because you've been there with them, and they will be able to tell that you are speaking from direct experience because you've been there with them. In which I could not reach them, but someone who's been through that cycle, that experience can. So I'm very careful about how I judge someone who seems to be falling off the side of the road and diving into a path that leads to a great deal of difficulty for them. Knowing that they may have a soul contract to experience a certain aspect of humanity's woundedness in order to be fully qualified to then reach those people that I could not reach. So you may look to your own lives where it seemed like you went off the rails a bit and have judged yourself for it. But viewing it from a soul's perspective, you realize that, well, I may have had a contract to share that aspect of human suffering so that I could really feel on a deep, compassionate, personal level what those people I'm attempting to reach are going through. Once you view it from that level, then you realize that all of your life is sacred. That all you've gone through and experienced has prepared you to open the door of the compassionate heart. Any of you have difficulty, quote unquote, forgiving yourself for having gone off the rails at certain parts of your life, and then realize that, oh, there was a great teaching there. So I've certainly, my team sat me down and had a little talk to me about self-judgment in that respect, and says, okay, brother, you're just exploring the human experience here so that you can speak one human to another. So Chiron now, having retrograded back into Pisces, is about to go direct at about 28 degrees of Pisces, in the same sign as Neptune. And through February of next year, this opportunity for deep compassion to be revealed in the place of self-judgment is really being emphasized now for us to recognize that all of our life is sacred, and that all the difficulties or challenges we face have only prepared us for a deeper level of compassion for others in the same situation.
So if I was born late degree Pisces, then would that be hitting me harder?
What degree?
Late, like 17th? Late
Yeah, it's already past your, but if you're 17 Pisces, then Neptune is
17th,
She was born on the
on the
17th.
17th of Pisces, so would that be in a later, like a 28 degree? What degree would that be?
you can't be born on the 17th of Pisces.
I mean, I'm sorry,
17th
17th of March.
17th of March. Well, you can be born on the 17th of Pisces. Yeah, March 17th is right at the end of Pisces. So Chiron most likely has crossed over your sun, but it's still sitting there very close to it. So this whole period from 2012 onward has been a real opportunity for you to open your heart of compassion, particularly in areas of your life where you may have not felt that you acted very well, that you fell off the wagon, and realizing that you now are much more qualified through the humility of your experience to reach others in a similar position, saying, I'm just as human as you are, even though I'm an angel in disguise. I've had the experience of falling on my face enough to know that I can't stand or rise above you any longer. But I'm speaking eye to eye. But for your acceleration, Neptune being in Pisces, ruler of your sun, is gradually increasing in frequency as it approaches your sun and won't fully reach your sun for another few years. So you're just rising in frequency. Are you feeling that?
I feel like I'm being given a lot of opportunities to grow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So any questions or comments at this point before I go on?
Yeah, what degree does Jupiter station at before it goes retrograde?
That won't be till next year, and I believe it's 23 degrees. Yeah. That's quite a ways off. Yeah, 23, 21, yeah, that's in April. And it'll go back and forth between about 21 and 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So, and then enter Capricorn at the end of next year.
What about Mars conjunct Neptune coming up?
Mars is currently in Pisces, and as soon as he entered Pisces, around mid-November, he began to harmonize his energy with his own ruler, Neptune in Pisces. And he won't reach Neptune until December 7th. Just on the same, just the day after Mercury goes direct. Mars in Pisces, with Uranus and Aries as Uranus's guide, is creating a link or a bridge between Uranus and Neptune right now, which is very unusual. So many may feel Mars in Pisces being the hero's journey. I have Mars conjunct Pisces in my Mars in Pisces in my natal chart. So my whole life has been a hero's journey. When Mars is in Pisces, he's in the 12th house phase to his own sign of Aries. And it's like the warrior on the battlefield reaching the limits of his own strength and energy. And then realizing that from that point onward, his drive then is to serve the higher power. He finally reaches a point where his own desire to fight within himself or fight others is lost. He loses energy, and that the only purpose for his continuing is in search of the Holy Grail. So Mars in Pisces is the warrior shifting his emphasis to becoming the peacemaker in search of the Holy Grail. And that's a deep residing desire of the fulfillment of the warrior's journey in becoming the peacemaker. Mars can't evolve to the peacemaker until he's mastered being a warrior. So he has to go through all this entire cycle to master warriorship before he's then qualified to become the peacemaker in search of the Holy Grail. So Mars is in Pisces, and Neptune being also in Pisces, it's a very unusual opportunity for the deep drive of the warrior to evolve to the peacemaker. So wherever we've felt the need to fight what appears to be our enemy, there's an opportunity for reconciliation, for recognizing the higher purpose for which those who appear to be our adversaries have been called into our lives to offer us an opportunity to evolve to a higher order of love, which is what the Holy Grail represents. Mars in Pisces can feel like a loss of energy, where your personal drive, the adrenaline drive that Mars is associated with, is just gone. Your get up and go, it just got up and went. So there's a certain surrendered quality to Mars in Pisces, where the only source for that energetic drive then becomes a higher purpose, the inspiration of the divine. And when Mars connects with its divine mission, its divine purpose, the energy then moves Mars forward on a vision quest, on a holy journey. Mars will come out of Pisces in early January, just as the new year begins and Congress reconvenes. And Nancy Pelosi is like a 5 degrees of Aries sun. She's born on my birthday, actually, with Mars on her sun. So we can imagine what's going to be happening right after the new year with the new Congress convening. But Mars, before we get into that, Mars-Neptune, when Mars actually does combine with Neptune on conjunct, and the greater purpose for which we are born on a personal level that gives us drive to fulfill our higher mission is really in position to be revealed, and it's particularly through the dream time. So acts of selfless love, of compassion, are the means through which that portal is opened, and we realize that through being conscious and purposeful in our love in the small things of our lives, in the kindness we show others, that the demonstration of our true spirituality then becomes a consistent part of our lives rather than the need for a heroic act. So it's a very gentling energy, and Venus being in Scorpio during the same period of time, both water signs, it's a very psychic and quite magical time for us to dive deep into the beauty and power of relationship to one another, and how the depth and kindness and depth of emotion within our relationships is an avenue through which we can reactivate the magic of this experience we're having in our ordinary lives. So there's lots of magic in the air right now. And if we allow ourselves to be open to the love that's offered through the generosity of spirit, we'll find that new avenues through which we recognize the love that's always been around us will become quite evident. And the opportunity then to deepen that love on a purposeful level through acts of kindness and generosity will just strengthen our connections to one another. But this is a preparation for quite a dramatic start to the new year. Glenn, did you have something to say about that?
Oh, when you were talking about Nancy Pelosi,
Yeah.
12 years ago when Jupiter was in Sag was when she was Speaker of the House the first time.
Yeah.
And now Jupiter in Sag, she's going.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because Jupiter is in his own sign now, Sagittarius. Saturn is in his own sign in Capricorn. Jupiter and Saturn are what are called the social planets. They're the bridge between the personal planets, the Sun through Mars, and then the transpersonal planets, Uranus and beyond. So Jupiter and Saturn are what link our personal experience with the global matrix, and we call that society or culture. So Jupiter and Saturn being in their own signs is a very unusual signature. This is a 60-year cycle. The last time Jupiter and Saturn were in their own signs was late 59 into early 1960. So this can be a very powerful, productive period for our exploring new societal means through which we can make connections that are very productive, insightful, and expand our awareness of the greater meaning of our lives through social participation. So this new Congress, with Nancy Pelosi in the lead, the Democrats really coming in as a counterpoint, is opening a door for many of us to come out of hiding and feel a great sense of hope again, that there is a place or a way through which we can make a difference, not just in our own personal lives, but on a community-wide level, on a nationwide level, or global level, to step forward and do our part in finding others of like mind and heart with whom we can combine our energies and talents to make a real difference, not just in our own personal lives, but in our communities as well. So many may be drawn to participate in community-wide service or national service or global service, which will really open the door for new levels of understanding of how our gifts can be applied in the larger sphere to reveal themselves in a cooperative way. So I'm really looking forward to that, and maybe Lewis can lead the way there. On top of all that, we have, as I mentioned, Chiron going direct, turning direct gradually on December 9th. Mercury turning direct right on the new moon on December 6th. And this Mars conjunct Neptune is going to be a super powerful one because they're also what's called parallel. There are two ways a planet can be conjunct, either longitudinally, that's called a conjunction, but if they're also horizontally conjunct, same distance from the celestial equator as they're called what's called parallel. So when you have the parallel aspect with the longitudinal aspect, it really hits the bullseye. And Neptune will actually be parallel the day before. So this is a very close conjunction. So I'd be looking for at that new moon period on December 6th. The new moon will be in Sagittarius, with the moon conjuncting Jupiter earlier that day. A very powerful demonstration of the contrast I was speaking about earlier with Jupiter squaring Neptune, Jupiter in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces, in terms of our being really flexible for divine intervention to alter our framework, our belief systems, our way of understanding the greater meaning and purpose of our lives, so that our conceptual frameworks, our belief systems, our understanding can evolve beyond what we'd even thought possible through direct intervention. What comes to mind are people that have had an NDE, like Sophia here. Excuse me. Your life is making sense until you're just thrown out of your body in a whole new way of being or seeing yourself and the universe around you suddenly just transforms you. That's Neptune and Pisces. So higher order experiences of that kind can really challenge what you believe is true and completely transform and expand your awareness of what's possible for you and others around you. This is a very magical period of time, the entire month of December. Quite mystical.
What did you say about Mars again? You said something.
Mars and Pisces?
Mars and Pisces.
Yeah, Mars conjunct Neptune.
Okay.
But Mars is already in Pisces, so it's the entire period of time, through December especially. But just accentuated when two planets combine and conjunct, it create a punctuation mark for a process that's been underway for quite some time. And it comes to full awareness and clarity. So it's not just, the conjunction is not just active on that day, it's just a punctuation point, an intensity point for an entire phase, especially through all of December. Pluto is currently conjuncting its own south node a number of times.
Yeah.
That's a very long process. And I spoke about the Uranus-Neptune conjunctions of 1993, my other talks, that set the tone for the global matrix, a new level of sorcery needed as a unifying principle for the entire world civilization as we know it. And Uranus-Neptune conjunct in Capricorn was marked by the emergence of the United States as the singular global superpower that had the opportunity to offer the world at large a certain kind of social or cultural sorcery that would unify the world. And that was called democracy, in the name of democracy, of creating democracy. But the world at that point was ready for a unifying social model, construct, social sorcery that would be preeminent, that would act as a unifying principle for the entire globe. Now with Pluto transiting back and forth over that same point, 19 degrees of Capricorn, that's a sensitive point. The consequence, the dark side of that cultural sorcery has now been emerging out into the open for all the world to see. Because it was in Capricorn in 1993 and Pluto's in Capricorn now. So that model, because Uranus and Neptune are always about the future unfolding at a higher order of being. And yet because they were in Capricorn, it was still anchored to the patriarchal history of thousands of years of history of this planet and what that patriarchal history has produced in the outer experience of our countries, nations, and civilizations. The consequence of that particular seed that was planted thousands of years ago, now coming into full view. And with Pluto, it reveals the truth of that particular ideal, Uranus-Neptune, of worldwide patriarchal societies being the unifying principle of the human race.
And then conjuncting the south node, what is that?
And conjuncting Pluto, the south node, that just emphasizes the history, patriarchal history of this human race that is now culminating in a giant tsunami so that we all understand the true nature of the choices that were made thousands of years ago that set this particular cycle of civilization in motion. So this is huge. I mean, this is, and there couldn't be a better person to demonstrate the shadow side of this patriarchally dominant way of being than Donald Trump. So I'm just like so amazed that he was the one who, at the soul level, agreed to give us this teaching. You know, and it's all coming to a head in the next couple of years with the Capricorn climax in 2020. But this is a very, wherever the South Node is, it's a reservoir of wisdom based on previous experience, not only in this life, but in previous incarnations as well.
Can you elaborate on the, what would be the sorcery, the positive side of that?
Yeah, the intent of cultural sorcery is what I'm calling it,
Okay.
is to create a unified field of experience for a certain group of people. In other words, the American ideal. America is I became aware of this as sorcery just recently.
Is there any foundation to it? Or basis?
The intent of it is to create a unified field, so that people who haven't found the unity within themselves have a flag to rally around. And the flag creates a certain unifying field that it offers the opportunity for people of that country to feel connected to one another
Oh, like a unison.
as a unified field. Yeah, we're all Americans. It's a certain form of sorcery that starts in our childhood, through being given certain ideas that are valued by that particular culture. Your idea, you want to be successful as a man, here's the way to do it. Here's the cultural ideal that you need to meet in order to be embraced and experience as successful in this culture. Sorcery. And it's a spell that's cast on you. And then as young people, they can feel it. As young people, we knew there was a spell being cast on us, and we rebelled against it. Right? We didn't want to fall under that spell. And so this can work on a national level, but also on a global level. And this Uranus-Neptune in Capricorn conjunction was offering humanity an opportunity to create a unified field of experience, to come together at a higher order of awareness. But with Uranus and Neptune, it's the necessary requirement for Uranus and Neptune to fully realize their higher potential is that each individual has awakened to their true destiny, their true eternal nature. So the only way that the world can truly be unified is by the individual awakening of all human beings. And then that, from experiencing your own internal unity, then the natural consequences of a very creative, dynamic, and explorative, unifying sharing with others that comes from the center of your soul. That's the higher octaves of Uranus and Neptune. But like I said earlier, because it was in Capricorn, it's still based on the old cultural sorcery that was looked to as a unifying principle throughout our history. But that unifying principle imposed from the outside is only is a stopgap measure. It's like the training wheels on the bicycle. Because if you haven't experienced that unifying principle within yourself, that naturally unifies you with others, then that imposed unity from the outside will only be temporary and never really work.
I have one more question to do with that.
Am I making any sense here to everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Definition for sorcery, can you elaborate on that? Just
Because
the definition.
it's a spell.
Okay.
And I realize it's a spell that's cast on people. That's why Donald Trump has this core group that follows him. They're under his spell. I can literally feel the spell that they're under. And he could, like he said, walk out of the middle of the street, shoot somebody, and they still follow.
So they're spellbound.
Yeah, they're spellbound. Exactly. They're spellbound. And when I saw it as a spell, as a sorcery, it really became clear to me. It's like, whoa, this is really what's going on.
Okay, that makes
And,
sense with your definition.
Yeah, and so when people are under a spell, they don't realize it. I was in a cult, earlier in my life. I didn't know I was under a spell until the spell was broken. I realized I'd been possessed by a religious spirit. But you talk to someone who's under a spell, they literally can't hear you.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, so when you reframe this as sorcery, Trump being a master sorcerer casting spells on people, you really start feeling the impact he has, because spells work primarily on the emotional level. They go beyond the mind, and they work directly with your emotional response to them, rather than your conscious
Emotional reaction.
Yeah, your emotional, they'll play on your emotions. It'll, you know, the spell is emotional primarily. It's beyond, it's psychic, you know.
Because if you react, you go unconscious. If you respond, you go conscious.
What's that?
When you react, you go unconscious. That would be spell binding.
Mm-hmm.
But if you respond, then you stay conscious.
Yeah, if you're coming from a point of acting with a conscious awareness, then you're not subject to the spell. Anybody have any questions or comments about that? Because this is really being, this has become very quite dramatically expressed and demonstrated through the next couple of years here, through till the end of 2020. Give us all all of us, humanity itself, an understanding of what to truly aspire to, rather than falling under the spell of the appearance of success, to dive deeper into our own lives and understand what truly being successful means, what true integrity involves. Go ahead.
How does a spell like that get broken?
For me, it was love.
That's it.
Love broke the spell for me.
Uh,
Yeah. There was a deeper love that began to emerge on a personal level with someone that, you know, it didn't fit the picture of what I was being told. So love actually guided me out. And there was a deep resonance there that had me questioning all of what I thought was true. And that's what began to open the door for me to emerge from the cult. Of course, then I got into shamanism, and you know, the mushrooms helped me just blow all those circuits. You want to break the cultural spell, do a hit of acid or mushrooms, and it's like, whoa, you know, I just woke up. I've been under a spell my whole life. I've been sleepwalking. I didn't even know I was under a spell. That's what's so curious about people being influenced or under a spell. They don't know it until some sudden event or person just shocks them awake and the spell's broken. That's why when people awaken, it can be, it's like, wow, I'm seeing things for the first time. I was really under a spell. And that really is true. It's a worldwide level of sorcery that I'm just becoming aware of now. That in its truest intent is to act as a unifying principle, but because it isn't coming from the soul level, it's always from the outside in, and it can never really truly unify us. But each one of you, in your own way, can take what I'm suggesting here in your own meditation. Find your own words for what I'm saying. These are the words I was given. We're going off
I
the deep.
want to give love to the little boy inside of him, but the adult that's screwing everything up, I just want to smack him.
Just drop a little acid in their drink. Wake them up. Yeah, to emphasize this teaching that I'm suggesting here, Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio on November 1st, and then goes direct on November 6th, the day of the new moon, December 6th, I'm sorry. December 1st, it retrogrades back into Scorpio. December 6th, it goes direct, and then re-enters Sagittarius on December 12th. So that first 12 days of December is an excellent opportunity to have direct experience of the sorcery that I'm talking about, because Mercury in Scorpio is very much connected to psychic warfare, psychic influences that we may not have been aware of influencing us. Much of what we experience is actually being influenced. We're being influenced by entities on the other side that are working covertly in a hidden way to manipulate or steal our energy. And Mercury in Scorpio, you become aware of that by getting into a deepened psychic state where your sensitivities to those other influences are amplified. If you're not conscious with them, you can be drawn into psychic warfare with those you love, especially with Mercury in Scorpio, and then find yourself in a contest of power that you hadn't really intended, without being aware of the fact that you're being influenced by entities from the other side that are feeding on that energy. So just being aware of that potential, you can catch it early and say, I'm not playing that game. Okay. But on a global level, that contest of power can become quite evident through the first 2 weeks of December. And then Mercury enters Sagittarius, Jupiter being in Sag there already, the Sun remaining in Sag, the greater teaching of those of being clear-minded, Mercury, about the energy signature that you share with others, and not being drawn into destructive behavior with others, to whom you intend to love and build up. Because Mercury in Scorpio can activate the shadow side, so that you then are more secure in being able to be in command of your own energy field, so that you can trust yourself in deep, intimate relationship with another without fearing losing your discipline and finding yourself at odds with the person you love. I've spoken about the discipline involved in love before, and this is an excellent time to perfect your discipline, realizing that when the energy gets intense, that your discipline then is called upon to watch word and deed and not react but act with purpose. And sometimes it's the right action is to be silent and not allow yourself to be drawn into a psychic contest with those you love. Allow the air to clear, take some time, breathe deep, recenter within yourself, and then re-enter the conversation or situation with purposeful intent to remain constructive as a healing agent, as a clarifying agent for the deeper issues involved, rather than getting into a psychic contest that leaves both of you feeling drained. And if you both feel drained after you've fought with someone you love, you'll know that that'll be one sign that there are those other entities that have just been having a little feeding fest on you. And that's when I became aware of that. I said, okay, brothers and sisters, whoever you are, this is not allowed in my experience any longer. I see you. And that gave me the opportunity to become much more disciplined in the way I engage, especially when the energy gets high. But this will be an excellent time for us all to become more aware and conscious of those influences that we may have had a back door open to without us even knowing. So I'm looking forward to December 6th, the new moon in Sagittarius, because currently we're still experiencing the new moon in Scorpio. And we're feeling that we're really coming out of the woods, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah, Mercury leaves the shadow. He completes this very long process that's been underway since early September on December 17th. And then Mercury, having gone direct, leaves its shadow on December 24th. So by Christmas time, we'll really be moving forward. And once Mars enters Aries, just after the new year, wow, we're really going to be taking the bull by the horns, so to speak, and moving forward in a quite dramatic fashion.
Exciting.
Any comments or questions at this point?
So what you're saying is that the beginning this next year, is a beginning of a new level of freedom on a number of different levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's already started. Jupiter's entering Sag. We're feeling it.
But especially the overcoming of the, I would say, more the social contract, especially, you know, I mean, for men or women, whichever. But you were speaking about if you want to be successful in the eyes of whoever, then this is the social contract you need to put yourself in. You need to own a business. You need to do this.
You need to become a Donald Trump, right?
Right. But to overcome those things, and then you gain such a level of freedom, both internally and externally, to the point where love can flow through you, and it's not just stopped in this being locked up in your fear, your doubt, your confusion. You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That love is connected with Capricorn in your experiencing what personal authority really feels like. Personal authority translates as integrity. And when you come to a place of feeling that integrity, that spine, Capricorn rules the spine, you stand tall in the truth of your being, in the integrity of your being. Your own success is defined by yourself. And that's what breaks the cultural spell. You're successful in holding your ground and rising to your full height in your own integrity, your own inner authority, and taking command over your own being, and acting with care and respect for others around you. Integrity and respect are like intertwined.
Right.
So the deeper your self-respect, the deeper your integrity, the greater your personal power to stand in the truth of your being becomes. And you become immune to the cultural sorcery, particularly of other men, demanding or expecting you to become a Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay? So, because Donald Trump represents all the negative Capricorn aspects of what cultural sorcery has held up to us as the dream of becoming successful.
Well, it's one thing to be successful, say, as a business owner, where you're stepping on everyone's back, as opposed to being a successful person overall, where you accept the responsibility of taking care of the people on a very personal level, so that they are blessed and encouraged, because that is a responsibility.
That's the higher order of Capricorn. You become the father. Capricorn is the father figure, father principle. We have negative fathers and positive fathers. But beyond becoming rich and successful, what was the one thing that we were always told by our parents would be the most amazing thing we'd ever do to be successful? What was it? Being president of the United States.
Well, I always got beat down.
I mean, that's held out to little boys as like, the ultimate successful outcome of your life. Okay?
Yeah, having lots of money,
Yeah, well, not only that, but being president of the United States, beyond that.
And I fought that hard most of my life.
Yeah, so that's what I'm calling cultural sorcery, those images that are held out to us as the means through which to be loved by all. Because that's the intent of success. If I don't experience my own value and deep natural capacity to be loved as myself, I need to become quote-unquote successful in order to guarantee or assure that I'm going to be invited, accepted, embraced by others. And that's the sorcery of it. Yeah.
I can see that.
Right? So, once you've broken out of that, then you find your own integrity and you realize that it's my place to love, not rather than be loved.
Well, you walk in such great power and authority, but it's not over people, it's with people.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, all of a sudden, now the universe can bless you beyond anything, because you're not going to use it against people, you're going to use it to help other people blossom and be enriched on levels unknown before.
See, that's a natural consequence of your being in contact with your own soul, which is the window to your immortality. That's the nature of the soul. Those who've lost contact with their soul get caught in social cultural sorcery and all other kinds of strange and unusual behavior
Well,
to achieve a place in society.
I fought all of those things. I grew up in a very strong religious spirit, and the whole male social contract, and beat down by my father about all his negative stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, I had to go through some very terrifically cataclysmic things in my life. But in spite of that, I walk in joy like I've never experienced before.
Mhm.
And it's not having a big bank account or a nice car. That means very little.
Yeah.
But the fact is those things come about because of your spiritual, emotional availability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Dad showed you what not to do. That was his contract with you.
How not to be negative and beat your kid.
Yeah, right. Sometimes parents have a contract with us to show us very clearly what not to do. And they're great teachers in that way. Because every time we even begin to imagine falling into that path, says, whoa, I remember what Dad and Mom did and how that felt. I can't do that. You know? It's great teaching.
We live by contract.
So-
When you figure out what you don't like, then you take your eyes off, your focus off what you don't like, then you can turn
Yeah.
around and say, okay, this is what I want.
Yes.
And you know, law of attraction says what you put your energy into will come to you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a whole different ballgame, and it's unlimited. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, once I realized I chose my mother and father, I couldn't blame it on them anymore. I chose you too, amongst billions of souls. There must have been a really good reason for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Are we feeling complete for the evening? Do you have a question, comment?
I just want to make sure I understood. So you mentioned spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What Eric's saying is extremely true. And it's extremely serious. And yeah, I'm sure you all heard the little quote, left behind. It's serious. Like talking about having love, truly love yourself, truly love the Creator, because this is real what's happening. And you do not want to be left behind. And you do not want to fall asleep, because even at night when you are sleeping, even that spiritual warfare can attack you in your sleep time. So you have to be filled with reverence, walk it during the sunlight and walk it during the moonlight. Because it's serious work that we have here as light workers on this earth. We're all here in our bodies, carrying the soul and the spirit of Creator, and we have a job to do here. It's extremely serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, on that note, it's really important also to realize that they're not our enemies. Yeah. They're just doing their part to offer us an opportunity to perfect our love. I'm not polarized against them. I have no fear of them. Because once I see them, they just kind of run. Says, oh, you see me? They're very surprised by that. But we have all contracted or called them in to, as an avenue of initiation through which our love is perfected. Once I realized that, I realized how perfectly everyone and everything is playing its part. The only thing left for me to do is to find and keep clear my little circle and know what makes my own heart sing and not move beyond it unless invited. So the first step in what Sophia was saying, and what I'm suggesting, is just awareness. Once you're aware of their presence, they lose about 99% of their power because they operate in the darkness. And there's nothing to fear here, only to gain and deepen your commitment and experience of the power of love that you are in truth. Do you have something to say, Glenn?
Yeah, the winter solstice chart shows the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And our winter solstice start this year has Mercury conjunct Jupiter on a Sag ascendant. And that has to be one of the most clear observant aspects that you can get. So people are gonna see through the lies, which Sages are known for too, you know, and
Mhm.
and there's a clarity that comes with this that's perfect. So,
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Glenn. I overlooked the winter solstice on December 21st, the day before the full moon, at 2:23 p.m. Pacific time. And Mercury is exactly conjunct Jupiter that morning on the 21st. And Venus in Scorpio is also trining Neptune that same day, earlier that day. Really beautiful, magical window.
and Sag is rising.
And Mount Shasta on the west coast, Sagittarius rising, is the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction in the 1st or the 12th house.
It's just above the ascendant by
So it's still in the
a
12th.
degree and a half. So,
So it's still in the 12th, but it's conjunct the ascendant.
yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that is a beautiful window for conscious awareness of these greater teachings that are coming in. And with Mercury, being able to communicate them and share them with others. So, I believe that I'm doing my next talk on December 21st, if that's correct.
Yes.
December 21st? So, that's a perfect day to exercise Mercury conjunct Jupiter. And we'll all be sharing our stories that day. Maybe I'll just shut up and have everybody else share their story. But I'm looking forward to that. And that'll be a real punctuation mark, preparing us for the emergence of Mars in Aries just after the new year. Anyone else? You feeling complete? Okay, well, we'll call it an evening unless anyone else has anything to share.
Do nothing out of fear.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
Mhm.